This is CBC Vancouver News.
It was horrifying.
I do wonder why it happened in the first place.
The investigation continues into a seaplane crash that left 2 people hospitalized. It's sparking questions and concerns over safety in the harbor. And
I've found 144 mortalities in that time.
what's behind a petition urging Simon Fraser University to become more bird safe? Plus,
sometimes the outcome can be very negative, but knowing that you've been there to support that person or their family by providing closure is huge.
it's the end of an era for the longtime leader of North Shore Rescue. We'll find out what he's learned and meet his successor. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. The Transportation Safety Board continues its investigation today into what may have caused a float plane to collide with a boat yesterday in Vancouver's Cole Harbour. The impact sent 2 boaters to the hospital. The 5 plane passengers and pilot were okay. As Yvette Bren reports, the unusual accident has raised questions about harbour and seaplane safety just as tourism season kicks off.
When this Harbour Air float plane seemed to speed toward a boat, it caught the attention of a lot of people.
It jumped it almost, and then the plane went down like underwater very quickly, which was just terrifying.
Local boaters rushed to help in the 3 minutes before emergency crews arrived. A pilot and 5 passengers on the charter flight escaped the sinking plane. 2 on the boat went to hospital with minor injuries.
It's important that you listen all times on the water, including for aircraft, float planes landing and taking off.
The Vancouver Harbour Master says the boat was in a zone reserved for float plane operations.
I would be very hesitant to blame the pleasure craft in this case, but who knows at this point.
While onus remains unclear, more boats on the water increase the risk.
This is a very rare occurrence, but obviously one that can happen when there's so much traffic out in the bay.
Here at this float plane terminal in Vancouver, at the heart of Vancouver, tourists are coming right from Stanley Park or cruise ships and hopping on some of these tours on float planes. Nobody here has even heard of one hitting a boat before.
Well, this is the first time I've ever heard of an incident like this, and I've been on doing this for 27 years, so.
Harbour Air is the largest seaplane company in British Columbia. In a statement, it says safety is its top priority. For the people waiting to board, it's unsettling.
Shock at first. I thought, wow, don't expect that to happen, do you?
It was horrifying, yeah. And I've flown Harbour Air a lot, and for years never had a problem and never even heard of anything like this happening. So it's pretty chilling.
But I do wonder why it happened in the first place.
That question now the subject of a Transportation Safety Board investigation. Officials are now working on resurfacing the submerged plane. Yvette Bren, CBC News, Vancouver.
Search crews near Squamish continue to assess conditions more than a week after 3 climbers went missing. The search was temporarily suspended Thursday due to challenging weather and avalanche conditions. Squamish Search and Rescue says experts have been analyzing aerial video footage from the past week. Crews say conditions are fluid, and once the hazards have subsided, they will look for other opportunities to resume the search. The 3 experienced mountaineers were last heard from on May 31st when they were attempting to summit Atwell Peak on Garibaldi Mountain. Later in the show, we will be shining a light on the people behind rescue teams in BC to learn more about the work they do. This week, BC's Seniors Advocate presented his first report in the new role after speaking with service providers and hundreds of seniors. He says there was one overwhelming issue: affordability. Michelle Gomez has more on the impact to seniors in this province.
The inaugural Walk of Ages went ahead Sunday. The event is raising money for temporary housing for seniors across the province experiencing homelessness.
We don't have a lot of supports with regards to senior-specific shelters.
Organizers say homelessness among seniors is on the rise as pensions are not keeping pace with the cost of living.
Most of the seniors we work with are between 20,000 and 24,000 a year. So you can imagine trying to live in the city of Vancouver as a senior with all the challenges and opportunities to, for mobility, for medications.
Silgardo says her society receives an average of 12,000 to 14,000 calls a year from seniors who are facing homelessness for the first time in their lives. In last year's homeless count in the Lower Mainland, 22% of those accounted for were seniors, but Silgardo believes this is an underrepresentation.
It's difficult to tell because a lot of seniors couch surf or live in their cars, and we don't really see them.
With rising housing costs, some seniors say they find themselves or seniors they know in precarious situations.
We were lucky enough to sell our home, which enabled us to move there, but it's not going to last forever. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen when it runs out, but yeah, pensions are not enough to live on.
I have a few friends that can't afford to live where I am, and they don't know what they're going to do. But right now they're just living with family, so they don't know.
And amidst the event came a funding announcement. Minister for Mental Health and Addictions Jennifer Whiteside announced the province would provide $800,000 in funding to the Society's Housing Navigation Program. It connects seniors to housing and resources.
They worked, they contributed. They're the reason why we have the strong social fabric that we do. I can't think of anything more important than supporting seniors' age in dignity.
Organizers and participants hope today's event will not only raise funds for temporary housing, but will raise awareness for the need for long-term solutions. Michelle Gomez, CBC News, New Westminster.
Interior Health says Oliver Hospital's emergency room will be closed once again due to a doctor shortage. Emergency services will be unavailable overnight until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Patients are being advised to seek care at Penticton Regional Hospital, about a half an hour away. A Simon Fraser University student is sounding the alarm over bird strikes on campus after she witnessed countless birds colliding with glass windows, some of which proved fatal. As Sohrab Sandhu reports, she's calling for better preventative measures to keep birds safe.
Vanessa Hum is a master's student at Simon Fraser University. As part of her studies, she monitors bird collisions with glass windows and buildings.
So this is an American robin. It collided with this walkway here. It's a transparent walkway where I've found a lot of collisions.
Hum says over the past year, she's been monitoring 8 buildings at SFU's Burnaby campus and has found evidence of more than 300 window collisions.
I found 144 mortalities.
She says research shows birds colliding with glass is the second leading human cause of bird deaths, resulting in millions of bird fatalities each year in Canada.
SFU is along a big migratory pathway for birds called the Pacific Flyway, so we have lots of birds and warblers passing through each season for migration.
At UBC's BT Biodiversity Museum, Derek Tan and a group of students have come up with effective preventative measures like painting illustrations on windows, hanging netting, or applying a window film.
If they see a reflection of trees on the other side and they think it's part of the habitat that's continuous and they can keep flying into it. So what we try to do is we try to put something opaque on the outside of the glass to interrupt that reflection.
Dan says university campuses are surrounded by green space, a natural habitat for different kind of bird species.
I think it's something that people are increasingly concerned about as we see bird populations declining. There are small steps that can make big differences.
Back at SFU, Hum has identified high-risk locations on campus and is advocating for change. She started an online petition calling for more bird-safe solutions that has garnered hundreds of signatures.
Birds provide us with a lot of nature services. They are pollinators, they disperse seeds, they also help control pests.
In a written statement, a spokesperson for SFU says the university shares Hum's commitment to wildlife protection and has been taking action to reduce bird collisions, including incorporating bird-friendly designs into its new buildings under construction. Sohrab Sandhu, CBC News, Burnaby.
To Nanaimo now, where Pride Month festivities are well underway. Today's Pride Parade capped off a week of celebrations with what organizers are calling the largest crowd to date. But as Claire Palmer tells us, the celebration comes amid recent anti-SOGI protests and pushback on SOGI programming by the BC Conservative Party and its latest recruit, Surrey South MLA Eleanor Sturco.
I love you, Nanaimo! Happy Pride!
What's normally a quiet downtown on Sundays is transformed this week with color for Pride.
I just think it's fantastic. It gives you hope, you know. There's a good spirit of life, you know, and caring for each other.
It's great to see so many people, so many Nanaimoans taking part in it too.
Pride hasn't always been an easy topic in Nanaimo. It was only 15 years ago that the Pride flag was first raised, but it's grown over the years and become more popular. Organizers say the goal this year is to ensure everyone feels safe and welcome.
If you don't see yourself represented, it's really hard to know that queer and trans people exist and can live happy, healthy lives, that there's a future. And so one of the most important things I think for kids to see is trans and queer adults, but also all kids should be learning about diverse families.
Pride Month this year comes as sexual orientation and gender identity curriculum in schools is back in the news as it becomes a hot topic leading into election season. This week, the MLA for Surrey South, Eleanor Sturco, who is gay and a 2S LGBTQ+ advocate, crossed the floor to the BC Conservatives and said the province's SOGI policy in schools must be reconsidered.
Just a clear abrogation of her values and everything she's ever stood for is what it seems to me, just as a pure power grab.
Last fall, the Nanaimo District Teachers Association became the first in the province to speak out on anti-SOGI rhetoric.
I get that there's fear and there's rhetoric, but we need to remember our students and creating a safe and inclusive space. And so ultimately, those folks need to be aware that society has grown and changed. It doesn't exclude them, but it does need to include everybody.
It's much simpler and much more loving than what the critics have characterized it as, and we're really committed to supporting teachers and vulnerable people at vulnerable times.
Malcolmson says it's important to stand behind Pride, and that despite the ongoing controversy around SOGI, the day was still one of celebration.
There's no place for hate here in Nanaimo, and people here in Nanaimo have come out to show just that.
You can just truly feel the joy, the celebration, and the unity of our community today.
Festivities will continue on the island over the next month, culminating with Victoria Pride in early July. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
It's the end of an era for the face of North Shore Rescue. When we return, why longtime volunteer Mike Danks is stepping down. For almost 60 years, North Shore Rescue has been helping hikers, skiers, and other outdoor enthusiasts when they find themselves faced with an emergency. We talk a lot about the rescue teams and their operations, but today we are finding out more about the faces and the people who dedicate their time on these teams. I am joined in studio with Mike Danks and Scott Merriman. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here today. A bit of a passing of the torch today, as Mike is wrapping up his time with North Shore Rescue. Scott, you will be the new lead, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's very exciting. But before we talk a little bit about the next steps for the team, Mike, let's take a trip back to when you started this at the young age of 19. That was something that you actually did because of your father. You fell into his footsteps a little bit.
I really did, yeah. The team has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. My dad was a former team leader, and his friends, his peers that were on the team were people that I really looked up to, and they really turned me into the person that I am today, just giving me a lot of advice and wisdom through the years.
What is it about the search and rescue aspect or field and industry that you really were attracted to?
I think it's really about being a part of a team that supports each other through tough times, and it's about giving back to the community. And once you go on a few calls and you see the impact that it has on the people that you rescue, and not only them, but their families, that in itself it's priceless.
What are some of your maybe fondest memories?
You know, I think every call that you go on, whether the person gets out of that situation unscathed, or whether they're injured, or sometimes they don't survive, it's really about just being there to support the families.
Scott, for you, why did you want to take on the role of lead of North Shore Rescue?
Certainly, the last 10 years with Mike has been inspiring, seeing the trajectory that the team has really taken on. And I, certainly feel passionate about it, and I'm excited to continue. The biggest priority immediately is training new members. We've seen a lot of good members leave the team, unfortunately, just due to the cost of housing in Vancouver. So we're bringing on 16 new members, 8 members in training. So it will take quite a bit of effort from our full members to train them up and get them operational. So certainly in the near term, that's our priority.
And these positions are volunteer, correct?
Yeah, 100% volunteer driven, and the progression from a member in training to a full member takes 2 years on our team. So it is a considerable time commitment, and the team puts in a lot of effort in training people up, and we want to see that return. So we want to see our members really engage and enjoy it, and continue to be with us for how many years, Mike?
28 years.
28 years.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Now, if people want to learn a little bit more about the ins and outs of being a part of a rescue team, they can definitely, you plugged it a little earlier, check out North Shore Rescue on Knowledge Network. What is most exciting about this show, or something kind of that really pleased you about this show?
For me personally, it's about sharing all these different experiences that we've had. Squamish Search and Rescue is in there, and Lions Bay as well, and it's to create awareness of what all the volunteers throughout the province of BC do in their communities. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, what you're seeing with North Shore Rescue. And we wouldn't be able to do this without the community support that we have. So we're so incredibly fortunate, and we're excited to share our journeys.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you think you've faced over the years?
I think, I don't know, do you want to take this one?
Probably the biggest challenge that we face as a team is when the conditions are such that it's too dangerous to send rescuers in, and we have to tell the family that I'm sorry, but it's just not something that we can risk the lives of our members for, and we have to wait for really a better opportunity to do so.
I want to talk a little bit about the mental health aspect of your job when you're facing these challenges, when maybe it is a situation that is a little bit more harder to face. For you, and this is a question for both of you, you know, how do you make sure that you keep your mental health in check and are receiving the support that you need for your members?
And this is a huge one for me, and it's really about making sure that you're taking care of yourself, number one. So you're eating properly, you're getting adequate rest. But when you're going on those calls, you really try to prepare yourself before you go on them. So as soon as that call comes in and maybe it's an injured child, you start to mentally prepare yourself for what you may see. So it's not a huge shock to you. And then the other piece is building resilience, and that's through teamwork, doing different drills together, discussing different situations, and how we really support each other. So the rescue team is really like a family. That's the big piece. And when the call is finished, it's taking a moment to sit down with your peers and just discussing what you just experienced, and being very open and honest that sometimes we go to situations that are not normal. It's not normal to see people that are injured in that way. And sometimes the outcome can be very negative, but knowing that you've been there to support that person or their family by providing closure is huge.
So Mike, what are you going to miss the most about being with this team 24/7?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm so excited that Scott has agreed to step into the role, and the team is behind him in that, and I know he's going to progress the team in so many ways. So for me, it's going to just give me a little more time to focus on going on the actual calls. So it won't be such a strategic position. It'll be more of hopefully a grunt that kind of goes in and has some of the fun on those calls. So I'm really excited for the future.
So you're going to continue to volunteer with the team as much as you can, because you are taking on some other new roles with the fire department?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and honestly, I look at my role with the fire department and North Shore Rescue. There's so many parallels, and I've gained so much experience from search and rescue, as well as in the fire service. So I was recently offered the job of the fire chief with the district in North Vancouver Fire and Rescue Services. And my focus now is really going to be to build our team that we have there. They're a very progressive department, and I'm excited for what we're going to build on.
Thank you so much for all the years that you have dedicated to helping out our communities. And Scott, I'll have to get your cell phone number, because I'm sure I'm going to need to get a hold of you at some point. Thank you so much to the two of you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here we have a live shot of downtown Vancouver. After the break, we hit the drive for Italian Days.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond. Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
Vancouver's largest cultural street festival returned to Commercial Drive today. This year, a record number of food vendors and artists were there celebrating Italian heritage. Take a look.
So this year, our theme is Storia, and that's basically celebrating the past and connecting it with the present and really learning about history through storytelling. And we have a story to tell here today. The joy of life is important, but so is community and so is family. So what we try to extend in our spirit and celebration is the love of community. And that's what draws so many people here, right? Besides the fact that we have a record number of merchants and vendors this year, 200 participants, 113 food vendors, there's a lot to offer on the street, but there's also a beautiful spirit here. And I think that's the extension of the Italian heritage and culture. What we want to give people here is the vibrancy of the streets in Italy, right? When you go to the village and there's life in the street and people dancing. And so this is what we wanted to do. And we've animated the intersections throughout.
That is your late news for this Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. For news at any time, head to our website at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Hope you have a great night.